Before we begin the session, I would like to tell you that this is a session meant for academic counseling. And these sessions are actually not meant for delivering lectures. That's because we have already delivered lectures using our text based content, the study material. Ideally, you should have read the study material and we should have been discussing the hard spots that you have encountered while reading the material, the concepts that you have not understood. This is one reason for holding academic counseling session. The other good reason is that it's we believe that it's not just the teacher, only the teacher who knows everything, and students do not come to the class with an empty mind. Maybe you have rich experiences. I'm sure you have rich experiences and you have a lot to offer. And therefore, it's a teaching learning process. We should be discussing with each other. I would like to know about your experiences, especially in the context of your country, of your nation, of your continent, and what happens here at India. And thereby, we would have multiple perspectives. And after that, we could form an idea which leads to learning. So, with this premise, I shall begin the session. And please tell me if you can see the slides. Please let me know whether it is visible.
Yes, ma, it is.
Okay, okay. Uh, Now, I have been told that there are actually three blocks comprising this course. This course, which is titled School Governance and Financial Management, this has three blocks or three parts. The first one is about governance of schools, and we also have a few aspects of financial management. But from the second block onwards, we move towards management of financial resources. You know that this course is important, very, very important. That is because without money, nothing works, whether it is in India or in Africa. Whether you are the school head of an Indian school or the head of an educational institution in your country, in your continent, I'm sure you would agree with me that without money, nothing works. And as the school head, what would be your role in managing the financial resources? There are other resources as well, like human resource. Material resources are there, and these resources also happen to be very important. Nevertheless, financial resources are extremely important for for providing quality education to students. This is one reason. The other reason is, which is equally important, is that most of the fraud, cheating, and things like that, which could put the school head in a vulnerable position, that pertains to financial resources, mainly pertains to financial resources. Well, we shall discuss these aspects in the second counseling session, which would be held next Saturday. But today it is about mobilization of financial resources. Well, I have already said that these sessions, academic counseling sessions, are not just meant for delivering lectures. And I firmly believe that you have a lot of experience, you have a lot of understanding, and instead of you're just passively listening what I have to say, why not we engage in an exchange of ideas. Now, you see that this topic, mobilization of financial resources, without going into the financial part, which I'm sure you know, what do resources indicate? What are resources in the context of this topic, mobilization of financial resources? And what is mobilization? I would come back to you for your answers before we move on. There are just three of you here, never mind. But I would like to know from you. Yes, Suleiman, Rimindako, Fidjans, tell me. And uh, don't be don't feel inhibited or hesitant to share your views. That's because you can never be wrong. As adults, as students, and maybe you are, and also tell me about yourself, whether you teach or you are a student. I would like to begin with Suleiman. Yes, please tell me about you, introduce yourself, and I would like to know my students. And after that, tell me the answer to what I have asked. Yes, Suleiman.
Okay, good afternoon, ma, once
Good
again.
afternoon. Good afternoon.
My name is Sulaiman Ibrahim,
Right?
uh, but I would like to hear the question so that I know.
First of all, tell
What is
me
the
about yourself. This is my first question. After, yes, you have told your name, but apart from that, I would like to know whether you are a student or a teacher, a little
okay, okay,
briefly about yourself, and after that, we shall come to the questions.
okay? As I said, my name is Sulaiman Ibrahim. I
Right?
am a teacher in the University of Yobe here in Nigeria.
Okay, so you teach in a university. That's good. So, is there anything else that you would like to tell us, your subject?
Okay, the subject I have teaching.
Yes. Which subject do you teach?
Okay, public admin.
Public administration. Well, that has got a lot to do with finance and financial resources. Okay, that's really
Yes,
good.
yes,
uh,
yeah.
so now to the next participant. I'll come to the questions a little later after I know who are my students. Well, Rimindaku, MB Rimindaku. Yes, Rimindaku. Rimin, Rimindaku, are you here or you have logged in and are perhaps busy with something else?
Yeah, sorry, ma'am. I'm around.
Yes.
My name is Mubarak Aliu Idris.
Mubarak Idris, but here it is Rimindako. Okay,
Yeah,
Mubarak.
Rimendako is the family name, but it's
Okay,
not
right.
part of my official name.
Okay, okay. So tell me about
Yeah,
yourself. Hmm. Go ahead.
I teaches chemistry in higher secondary school for from 2012 to 2022, and now moved to college to teach Vedic science.
Okay, that's really good. And
Yes.
chemistry was one of my subjects, but I was really scared of organic chemistry. So I struggled
I'm
a lot
currently
with it.
I'm 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 currently doing my masters in organic chemistry.
Oh, great. That's really nice. Okay, the next candidate, Austin. Fitjans Austin.
Yeah.
I'm Austin Fijans, a
Yes.
health tutor who teaches nursing students in areas of surgical nursing, medical nursing, pharmacology, anatomy and physiology, and at times introductory.
Pardon, what you said was not very clear. Uh, maybe
Um,
there's some
I
problem.
am
Yes,
a
right?
health tutor who teaches at the nursing training.
Okay, okay, that's good. So now that I know who my students are, at least I have some idea. I think I could go back to the question that I have asked. And I would like to assure you again.
Madam, he didn't ask me to.
Oh, great. We have one more student, James. Yes, please introduce yourself. Yes, James, go ahead.
My, my name is James Kwekwedu. I'm
Right?
a physics teacher. I teach at a senior high school in Ghana.
Okay, so you teach physics. Okay, that's good.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we have teachers teaching physical science and public administration and other subjects as well. So subject wise, the group seems to be heterogeneous, but with one similarity which I can make out is that none of you have studied finance. Well, and I would like to tell you that we have absolutely no idea, no intention of turning you into accountants. You are a teacher, and I am a teacher, and we shall all remain teachers, but with some awareness of managing finance. That's because it is essential for the well being of our students, our institutions, and also, let us be very practical in order to keep ourselves safe. So, of course, the safety angle, we shall deal with it next week. So, today, now, I would come back to the question, two questions I had asked. Today's topic is mobilization of financial resources. We all understand the meaning of financial, something that's got to do with money. What does mobilization mean? What do resources mean? Tell me whatever you know. That would help me to build the narrative that I would provide to you. Yes. Huh. So I think anyone, James, could you please tell me the meaning of mobilization and of resources?
Right. All right, madam. When we say resources, resources are basically materials that are available to achieve a certain goal. So, if you want to develop, you need engineers, though these are human resources. If you want to build, you need money, so that becomes financial resources. So, basically, they are materials, and material can be human, can be item, can be anything. Mobilization, on the other hand, could be the process of gathering things to mobilize students, mobilize human resource, to mobilize people, meaning that bringing people together to be able to achieve a certain aim. So, madam, that's what I have. Thank you.
Well done, well done. That's really great. So, others, I would like to hear. You see, in academic counseling sessions are basically counseling sessions. And going by what Carl Rogers had said, that during an academic counseling, the counselor ought not to speak much. It is for the counselees to speak. Therefore, I would like to hear from you and just add to it whatever I know and present it to you. Yes, the next participant, please. Two questions. What's mobilization? What are resources? We have heard what
Okay.
James had to say. Right. Go ahead,
Okay.
Slim.
Okay.
Yes.
Resources simply means something that can be used in order to achieve something. As my colleague said, it can be either raw, it can be either financial resources, it can be either personnel resources.
Right.
While mobilization is simply means the act of mobilizing.
Okay. So you see that we could conclude from what two of you have said that resources would refer to means in order to attain ends. And what about the other two participants? Yes,
What I can say about it is that resources are assets that
assets.
are necessary for any organization, and these assets could include the human resources, financial resources, and the material resources. Your ability to gather these assets and then make use of it becomes the mobilization.
Okay. So he says that resources are assets and making use of resources in a judicious way is important. We have one more participant left. Yes,
I can
tell
say
us.
resources
Hmm?
is anything. Resources can be anything that can be used to achieve any specified objective or set objectives. While mobilization, the act of using the material to achieve that set goal.
Okay, so Idris Mubarak, if I can remember your name,
Yes, madam.
he has made the definition a little more specific by adding the word objective. That's really good. So all of you are right, and you have interpreted the meaning of resources as well as mobilization. Well, you are right that resources could be human resources, it could be material resources, it could be financial resources. For this discussion today and for this course, we would restrict the definition of resources along financial assets. the funds, the money that an institution possesses or is likely to obtain from various sources. We shall not get into the other definition of resources. This is the reason why I had asked you the meaning of resources. Now I contextualize it to today's discussions. The second thing is about mobilization. Yes, you are right. That's setting in motion. If something is stagnating or if something is fixed in nature, how to get it moving so that it becomes more useful for us. This is, I would say, a literary definition of mobilization, but we shall try to find out what it means during the discussions that we have now. Now, coming to this concept, well, when you read the study material, you will find that you have already said, I don't need to repeat, that financial resources are essential. That goes without saying. Why? That's because the various types of needs of the school would entail expenses. As I have said, that money is the most important thing that keeps institutions going, that keeps organizations running. Without that, there would be stagnation. Therefore, we need financial resources. But at least in India, I would like to hear from you in the context of your nations. But after we have covered this slide, that in India there are many schools, whether public or private, that just do not have adequate resources. And this program, PGDSLM, PG Diploma in School Leadership and Management, we had developed this program on the basis of certain guidelines from the Commonwealth of Learning. Commonwealth of Learning had developed a similar program for African countries for the school heads. And while going through the resources, we had found that what is good for what holds good for India has a matching context in Africa as well. That the schools are not flush with funds. Most of the schools do not have enough money. Even though public schools get grants from the government, nevertheless, the grants received often fall short of that required in order to provide quality education. But when we say that the school head must learn the or must devise strategies for mobilizing resources, we do not intend to say that the resources that you mobilize as school heads would substitute the government grants. No, I'm not saying that. The government grants are important, the government grants would be there. This is something which you mobilize in addition to the grants that your schools receive. And you must have heard of the term entrepreneurship. You see that this is a new term which has been termed by which has been coined by some educationists. They say that it is called edupreneurship. That's because at least in India, in the higher education sector, now the higher education institutes are being told openly by the government that generate funds, go ahead, mobilize resources. This has not yet been said to the schools, but days are not far off when the government would have similar expectations from the schools as well. Moreover, schools are open systems. Schools are organically linked to the community within which the schools are situated. The school has a lot to give to the community, and at the same time, it has a lot to receive from the community. But having said this, I would say that the basic concept of resource mobilization for schools is underpinned by the shortage of funds in our schools. Now, I would again stop presenting and come back to you so that I know about the schools of your countries. What is the situation? You might have been reading this material, but does it hold good for your schools? Tell me one by one. What about the situation, financial situations of your schools? Do you get enough grants? This is my simple question to you. Yes, let's begin.
At my
All right.
end,
In
we
our
usually do not
One
get
by one, I think
enough.
one of you may mute yourself. Uh-huh. One of you may mute. Yes, yes. Any one of you may begin. Right. Fidjans. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
At my end, we don't usually get grants because it's a semi-tertiary institution and it's a nursing institution. So almost every money that is used is internally generated. We use the internal generation funds for most of our activities. So we don't usually get grants from outside the school. Thank you.
Okay. So what I gather from what Fidjan says is that his school is not receiving grants. Well, there are schools in India as well that do not receive grants. We have a similar position for many schools. And whatever resources are generated internally. Well, that holds good for many schools of India. Yes, James, you have raised your hand.
okay, so in my school is a senior high school, and currently Ghana is running an education system where the senior higher education is a free. So that means that all financial resources are grants given by the government. We have little or no IGF. The IGF that are generated by schools are basically through canteen, market women that are selling in the schools, then sometimes to old students that are owning the school. So basically, in my school, financial resources is very difficult to come by. Like you said, through the research from the Commonwealth, the monies that are supposed to be paid by government or the grant that is supposed to be released by government do not come as it's supposed to. Currently, most senior high schools in Ghana only receive grants that are meant to feed students. The other ones are not really coming. Sometimes it comes and it is almost like half
I think
of it is gone and only some few amount. Because of that, it affects other activities.
okay. So he says that ideally his school should be receiving grants, but then there are issues. And now the other two participants. Yes, go ahead. Yes, MB. No, Mubarak.
Okay.
Mubarak.
Yes, yes, ma. Mubarak. Yeah, the school I'm now, I'm new in the school, so I can't tell so much because I'm just start teaching in this school for
Oh,
for the
that's
last
okay.
three
That's
months.
absolutely okay. That's absolutely okay.
Yes,
But
yeah.
now at least you are aware
But
of this issue. Okay.
yes, I have previous experience from the past school I teach, where I teach for 10 years. There is new government policy in the last 4 years. The government declare all education is free. So the government is giving grant to the schools monthly. Sometimes the government may spend 2 to 3 months without giving any grant. That is much affecting the school system in my state, Kano State, Nigeria.
Okay.
Yes.
That's true. That even when we have the grant in aid system in place, sometimes the grants are irregular and often inadequate. Well, we have a similar situation here, right? Suleiman, yes, tell me about your school or your institution. Yes.
Okay, ma. My case is almost the same with that of James. The source of finance in my school is almost through grants. We
Right?
used to collect grants from our government so that we can fund our education. That's the situation.
Well, so I think that the conclusion that COL had drawn long back, they had come up with the material sometimes in the 90s. And even after 3 decades, what we find that the similarities between the situation in your countries and in India is quite similar. And therefore, this topic was relevant and it still remains relevant. Now, going back to the presentation, one second. Yes. So we understand that the idea is that even if we have granting aid system in place, still it is important for the school heads to be aware of a couple of things. What are these? First of all, that there is a need to mobilize resources. One has to understand and appreciate this. And the second question is how to do that. We'll come to this, we shall answer this question a little later. Now, why mobilize resources? Well, you see that our schools today have various types of needs. Some schools have even thatched roofs. There are schools, primary schools in villages of India, which do not have proper building. Even though in the 1980s, a commission had been set up and it had said that every school must have a minimum infrastructure. But it is difficult. That is because the population is quite large, the expenses are high, and therefore, whether it is for infrastructure or for other needs, it is necessary for the school head to think about ways to mobilize resources. So, I could just summarize what we have been discussing, that we have scarcity of funds, and we agree on this. Very few private schools of India are flush with funds. Except these few islands of prosperity, I would say, in an ocean of inadequate funds, we are in a similar situation. We have scarcity of funds. The second point is that what we require surpasses what we are provided with, the grants that we get. The internally generated money also sometimes falls short of what we require. For instance, I would give you the example of Delhi. In Delhi school education, a lot of work is being done by the Delhi government for school education. But then the private schools are not allowed to charge as much fee as they would want to. There is a cap. The government caps it and government sees to it that private schools, this is of course a good measure, a measure in the right direction. Nevertheless, the onus is again on the school head to mobilize resources. And there is sometimes insignificant allocation for asset formation, whether it is material resources, infrastructure, and especially for non-recurrent expenses. For instance, you need, as I said, that if you have a school with just a thatched roof and you need a proper building, there are just no funds. And the government is the main and sometimes, and in most of the cases, the only funding agency. Therefore, the school head needs to think of ways to tap resources that are situated within the community. And we need to provide better education. So, as I said, that infrastructure with sanitation, potable drinking water. There are many studies which say that dropout is high when, especially for girl students, especially when the sanitation facility is inadequate. That at the secondary level, at the senior secondary level, one of the main reasons for dropout of girl students from schools is that there are just no toilets. Even if there are toilets, these are not functional, or maybe there is not potable water or water facility, water supply in the toilets. Well, the government is providing it. The government, I would not say, I would not deny the role of the government, but nevertheless, the school head also has to see to it. And then a library with a minimum number of books, a lab for science students. We have with us participants who are from physics and chemistry, and I'm sure they would agree that labs, without labs, especially at the secondary and senior secondary level of schools, how do you teach physics? How would you teach chemistry? Subjects like these. And then you need classrooms. We still have many classrooms in India that serve the students of different grades, multi-grade classrooms. There is only one teacher. There are benefits of having such a setup. Nevertheless, it is not something which we desire. That within the same classroom, you herd students from grade 1 to grade 5 and teach them. You need a hall, a multi-purpose hall. You need a good playground. That is because play is something which is essential for proper or the right kind of education. And it is not enough to have these facilities in place. We need to upgrade it and we need to maintain. That is very important. And then coming to curricular activities, teaching and learning within the classroom, and there are also outdoor activities like sports. You need to take children to for field visits, and then there should be welfare measures like proper midday meals. And we have in India the system of midday meals for elementary level children, for primary school children. And then guidance and counseling is very important nowadays for students. I would also like to hear from you. As far as teacher recruitment in India, that is done mostly by the government. It is more or less a centralized process. Nevertheless, the private schools, they have some role in recruiting teachers, or for that matter, in staff recruitment. Now, coming to this point of guidance and counseling, good schools, I would not say good, I would rather say schools which have lots of fund are investing in guidance and counseling. This has come up as a new requirement, but an essential requirement. What about your countries? Do you think that children, not just adolescents, but even and teenagers, not but even children of primary sections, need guidance and counseling? Tell me. And apart from the list that I've just shared with you, it is not an exhaustive list. What do you have to say about the situation of schools of your country? Yes, tell me. There are two questions. First, about the need for counseling. We need to make investment for guidance and counseling of students, sometimes their parents. And apart from the list that I have shared with you, what else would you like to add to it? Yes, let's begin. Yes, James. James. Yes, James, go ahead.
All right. Guidance and counseling is a very important thing if we want the school to progress. In a
Why?
school where there is a lot of there's a counselor or there's a guidance and counsel committee, there's a lot of discipline in there, and then students also dropouts not tend to reduce. So guidance and counseling is very very important in our schools. Well, about the late, what I wanted to add was that just as you said, in Ghana too, the teachers' welfare is also centralized. It's the government that normally pays teachers in terms of salary. So any other financial resources that are coming into schools are actually centralized. In fact, infrastructure-wise, building, tables, chairs, and all these things are all centralized. It's the government that present them because the senior high school doesn't generate the IGF. So that is what was also happening in Ghana and in Nigeria.
Okay. So James agrees that counseling is important. And as far as material resources are concerned, it is more or less centralized, and the schools receive it in the form of material grants. Okay, what about others? Yes. Huh. Riminda cow? Hmm.
Okay, madam. As you have rightly said, guidance and counseling is very, very important, and every educator knows this. That is why in Nigeria, specifically in my area, Kano State, every school has this committee of guidance and counseling. But I can see the committees are not functional due to so many factors, which include lack of funds, etc. And about the what you have mentioned about the problems facing our school, I can see it's like you are mentioning all the problems happening here in my area. Thank you.
Okay, so he too agrees that counseling is a new need and the schools need to invest for having a proper guidance and counseling center. And what about the other participants? Yes, it is important. This is an opportunity for you to prepare for your interviews within your institution and also for your jobs. Yes, use this opportunity. Yes, Fitjans, go ahead.
I think that it is of necessity
Um,
that
what concerning
guidance and
I think two
counseling.
of you are speaking together. Fitjans first. After that, I shall come to Ola. Yes, Fitjans, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that I think that it is of necessity that each institution must have a guidance and counseling unit. The reason is that there are times students' personal experience found in areas where their passion is not. There have been issues where I meet students who want to be nurses, but then studying them, you come to understand that that is not where they want to be. So you speak with them, you try to understand them, then you come to understand that they want to be in the military. But here is the case, they didn't get anybody to guide them. So they've ended up in the school and they are not performing. So if from the start of their academic life, these units are there, they will be able to not just mold their character, but also in career progression. Students will be able to know that, okay, this is what I want to do. So this is the course I need to study. This is where I need to move from here. And I think that that is one of the problems that we are facing in Ghana. There are a lot of people who are found in a lot of sect of academia that they themselves wouldn't have been there if they have had better guidance and counseling. And even with their parents, certain parents don't have any idea on where they want their child to be. So it is like, okay, when you complete this school, there is job. So go to this school. But then the student or whoever that is going to the school may not have that or may not have that inherent skills that will assist him or her to achieve whatever purpose there is in that. So personally, I think that it is of necessity and it's very, very necessary that every school must get a guidance and unit. And on the finances and the resources, at my end, the tutors or the staff are being paid by the government. But when it comes to other allowances, it is internally generated fund. When it comes to building school infrastructure and other items, it is the school that generates the funds itself to get those. So it is kind of quasi. The government comes in at a point in time, making it centralized, and then the school itself also coming in at a point in. Thank you.
Okay, so that's really good to know about the situation over there. And I find that we too have a similar situation. Now, Ola. Yes, Ola Abdul. Ola?
okay. As far as I know, almost all the schools I know in Nigeria, and specifically in Kenya, yeah, they all have the guidance and counseling department or the guidance and counseling officers. But the primary problem is that most schools, the guidance and counselings are not doing what they're supposed to do, or they are not functioning. or maybe they are doing below the expectation, and this has resulted into many students going into a field that they are actually not prepared for, or which is not right for them. But the school I'm currently in now, which I'm heading the academic department, we have a guidance and counseling officer, and she's doing very well. In fact, she's not just doing the academic guidance and counseling, she's doing all other aspects of the students' behavior and everything like that. She does all that part also. So I believe that guidance and counseling is not something that is supposed to be done or only should be left for the guidance and counseling officers. It's supposed to be something that even other teachers and staffs of the school should also take as part of their responsibility, because sometimes the the officer in charge of the guidance and counseling might not be familiar with some students, or some students might not be free or familiar with the guidance and counseling officer very well, and you'll be surprised that some students are so free and very familiar with some of the teachers, so that they can open up some things to some teachers and they can discuss more with that teacher than even the guidance and counseling officer. So therefore I believe that guidance and counseling shouldn't just be for the department of guidance and counseling alone, but also even the teachers and other staffs of the school should be able to do that. And concerning the finance, yes, there are finance, but the reality is it's not enough and it's not well utilized. Thank you.
Okay. So, what I gather from your narratives, and I have framed one question. Maybe this question could be a part of your term and examination question paper, maybe not, but you might face a similar question during your interview. So, this question would be, as a school head, you need to mobilize resources for fulfilling various needs. State any one need and justify the reasons for mobilizing resources for fulfilling this need. Well, I'm not going to answer this question. I've read out the question. The answer lies in the narratives shared by you, right? So, with this, let us go back to the presentation. And you see that the needs are not fixed. The needs that we had decades back have evolved. Today, this need for guidance and counseling has come up, especially in Indian schools, not only in metropolises and in big cities, but even in rural areas, in small towns. We have a serious problem of addiction. Children falling prey to substance abuse. Guidance and counseling becomes very important for such children, because early diagnosis, counseling at the school level, and if things really go out of hand, then referral services. How would the teacher know to whom to refer to which hospital, to which de-addiction center? It is for the guidance and counseling centers to provide help with the referral services. Counseling parents. So this is the reason why counseling is gaining prominence, but the government grants are for welfare building, for midday meal, for building toilets, for sanitation. We still do not have grants or funds which are earmarked for counseling. But in India, and I believe the problems are similar in developing countries and in your countries as well, the need for counseling is really important. It is an important need. And apart from that, career counseling. What are the subjects that they should be choosing at the senior secondary level? What should be the vocation that they should be choosing? What is their aptitude? Are they cut out for science? There are so many cases of students. It is, if someone has got a first division, good marks, he or she would just walk into the science stream. But if we have a counseling service in place, maybe the counselor would tell that student or that group of students that, well, you may have got 80% or 90% in your board exam, passing board examination, but you are not cut out for science. Maybe you could do better in humanities, or maybe you could do better in commerce. So this is the reason why this is an emerging need. And in the days to come, there would be many more such needs. and we may not have grants and funds for these needs. As a school head, we have to fulfill these needs. So this is about the need. And but from where do we get the resources? We have grants from the government. Now, if we are getting an X amount of money from the government, we can't tell them that, well, hike it by 10% or hike it by 20% because I have to open a guidance and counseling center. That doesn't work, at least not in India. And I'm sure with you, the situation would remain the same. But as I said, the schools are open systems. What is a closed system and what is an open system? An open system is a system that interacts with the situation in which it is immersed. A school is an organic part of a community. It is set up by the community. It is supposed to fulfill the needs of the community, the present needs of providing education, and the future needs of providing a group of people who would be fit for being employed and who would be also good citizens. Therefore, if the school is going to fulfill the needs, the present and future needs of the community too has a responsibility towards schools. It's true that parents pay fees, but apart from that, we as school heads should tap resources from the community. How do we do that? Well, at schools, we can make things or we can produce things for the community. And where do we go to sell what we make? Naturally, whether it is a product or it is a service, we have only the community to which we can offer what we make or what we produce. Our children, often in their art classes, in their craft classes, they can be asked to prepare artifacts, models like lanterns, torch, and things like that. This is happening. And nowadays, children are even making apps for traffic management, for teaching languages. School children are also doing that. So they develop these things and after that, they sell it to the community, of course, with the help of the school head. Or they produce for the community. They could have a small farm, they could produce some agricultural products, there could be horticultural endeavors. Apart from that, in India, schools organize co curricular activities like dance, music, painting exhibitions. I'm coming back to you in order to know what you do in your schools and educational institutions and sports. Parents are often invited. Parents and members of the community are often invited. And there are also fairs and educational fairs, other fairs, and sometimes the entry is on the basis of a ticket. So the parents and the members of the community need to buy that ticket in order to gain entry into these events. There could be other sources as well. Therefore, now you see, I would like to hear from you what happens in your schools. What happens during art and craft classes? Do your students engage in horticultural activities? Or are there farms associated with schools? What is the situation over there? Share with me. Yes. Tell me what happens at your schools. Or even if you are not aware of what happens at your schools, maybe you have experience, you have studied in schools and your family members may be school students. So, what is it that happens? Tell me. Do you think that the schools are in a position to make or produce something that can be sold? Any service that can be rendered in lieu of a price? Yes, Vidjan?
At my current school, they do not do that. But where I studied during my second cycle institution, it was an agricultural senior high school. So they had pig farm, the school had rubber plantation. The school had coconut plantation. The school had other forms of farms where at the end of the semester, at the end of the term, they harvest these crops and then sell it out to mobilize funds for the school. There are times the students, that is the Greek students, we help them and then they grow cassava, and out of the cassava they get produce that later is even used at the cafeteria session where foods are prepared. So that is an experience. That is what I saw during my second cycle institution. So the students were made to engage in certain activities that at the end will provide certain funds and then so the school. Thank you.
Right. And yes, others, I would like to hear from you. Yes, Dimindako. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Actually, in our school, they don't do anything to generate fund for the school. I can remember there are so many schools with a lot of farms, or you can see all the farms are used by only the teachers for their personal use, not for the school management. So I can say we don't do anything to generate fund for our primary and secondary schools. Thank you.
Okay. So, well, this is a reality of many schools. Uh, and others? James, what is the situation at your schools? Ola. James, yes, go ahead. Ah, tell me.
Okay, madam.
Hmm. James, have you unmuted yourself? We are not able to hear you.
In our school, to generate IGF, what happened is that we organize for.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
Yes, you are audible now.
hello. Please. Hello.
Go ahead.
All right. So I was saying that in our school, what we do to generate IGF is that the market women that sell food to the students, they pay some monthly dues, and that is one of the IGF that we produce. Another form of IGF is contributions and funds, donors funds from PA, all students, and some NGOs. These are the IGF that come to school for running of the school activity. Thank you.
Okay. So, Ola. Hmm. Well, you see that this is also a preparation, as I have said, and I would repeat, it is also a preparation for your interviews, for your term and examination, interviews within your institution and outside it. Utilize this opportunity to speak. Yes, Ola. And it's also really nice to know about the situation at your institutions. Okay. Uh, what we have come to know that the situation is quite different. It is not something which we would say is uniform. For instance, there are schools which have farms attached to their schools, and children are engaged in producing agricultural products and also engaged in selling it. And there are situations where this is not done. In India, the situation is more or less the same. We have different situations, but as a school head, when I say that children should engage in mobilization of resources, the school rather should engage in mobilization of resources, there are different ways of mobilizing resources. It is not necessary that every school should ask children to engage in agricultural activities or in horticultural activities. The school definitely has to tap the resources of the community, but it could be done in different ways. As I said, that there could be a wide range of activities, right, from art and craft, making models, and then making paintings, and then making things that are for instance, lanterns, torches, things like that. Children of some primary schools of India make beautiful kites, and the kites are then sold. And similarly, there are schools, especially in the rural areas, where they have some spare land for practicing horticulture, and there are also practices of floricultural practices. Flowers are sold to the local market. Co-curricular activities, dance, performing arts in various forms like music, and as I said, that the public gains an entry after buying tickets, and there could be other sources as well. Now you see that mobilization of resources, it depends, it is something contextual. We cannot have one size fit all approach. We cannot ask every school to engage in agricultural activities or in making kites or lanterns. It depends on the context. If it is a rural school, it might have some sort of facilities. If it is an urban school, it might not even have the land necessary for engaging in horticultural activities. And the needs of the community, that is also important. If you feel, if as a school head you have to carry out a sort of survey, that what is it that your community needs, what is it that would be able to sell to the community. If you are going to repeat what the community does, what the community produces, there would be just be no takers. Therefore, you have to be very careful while you, because you have to make some investments. So while making the investment, you need to take care that the investments do not go waste. And then be very careful that we may be idealistic, and we may try to our ends may be noble, that we want to do something good for the students, but then the rules are very important, and what your school authorities have to say, that's also very important. So do not violate the rules, and whatever you do, be sure that your school management agrees to it. Otherwise, the school head could be hauled up. So it's always better to take the authorities' consent and to keep them in the loop. And you also need to see that whether you have the necessary resources before you plan how you are going to mobilize resources. Now, coming to this question of ways and means, as I said, that apart from horticultural activities, making things, you could also think of renting out a part of your building when it is not in use. For instance, many schools of India, what they do is that on holidays they let out their classrooms for holding public examinations. There are examinations for government services, and they need big classrooms or halls, and they approach the schools, and the schools let out their classrooms for that. So this is one way of mobilizing resource. Well, the school library could be open to the community on holidays or maybe in the evening. The school playground, that could be used by the community again on holidays or in the evening when the school is closed. And apart from that, there could be appeals for donation and endowments. The parents could be asked to contribute. The community could be asked to contribute financial resources, material resources. And then we also have a practice here in Indian schools, is that they have a small shop. Many schools have a small shop, and they sell stationaries, books, and a good idea is to engage students as shopkeepers. They would learn maths, they would learn how to manage a shop, they would learn how to manage a small business, and the profit that is earned through the shop would go for the welfare of the children and for providing better educational services. These shops not only sell stationeries and books but also uniforms. Then there are some schools which provide transportation facility to their students, and they have a bus service, and the students are safe while they travel by the school bus, but that is in lieu of the fee they pay, the transportation fee. Apart from that, there are fairs, cultural activities, sports. Now, coming to a very important question of ethics. As I have said, that there are many ways to mobilize resources, and this is highly contextualized. We cannot prescribe that, well, engage in these activities in order to mobilize resources. You, as the school head or institutional head, or as the teacher of an institution, would you would know the best. That is the reason why I asked you. Now tell me about the ethical part of it. What are your ideas about the ethics of mobilizing resources? So, well, that in Africa, in India, in many developing as well as in the developed world, business and ethics should go together, but that often does not happen. Or I may say, sometimes that does not happen. So, when we are trying to earn money at the school level, what about the ethical part? What are your views? Yes, come on, tell me. How important is it? And what are the precautions we should take? Just tell me your ideas about the ethics part of this mobilization of resources. Yes? How come you are silent? Suleiman, Fidjans. Hmm.
I think the
Uh,
question is not much clear.
Okay. You see, a business has to be run not only on the basis of entrepreneurship, but ethics is always important for a business, right? For any financial activity. What should the school head do so that while engaging in mobilization of financial resources, the ethics part, the ethical part of it remains intact? Or maybe I could show you another slide, and after that, I could take your views. Since the question is not,
Madam,
yes,
what I
yes,
can say is that when it comes to ethics,
right?
one ought to abide by morals. Okay, so even though the students are, we are engaging them to mobilize funds for the school, we should be guided by morals so that they don't get themselves involved in activities that will alter their morality, and that has to do with integrity of the school. Because if you are a school leader and then you want to mobilize funds for the school, your integrity should be upheld highly, so that you don't end up using what you have mobilized for your personal gains. And then also, it should be in line with whatever laid down rules that the school has. There should be protocol to whatever tender you would do, so that people will follow the set up protocols that are in the school in order not to move away from the ethical concept of whatever thing that is being done. That is what I can say.
Well, I fully agree with you, and you have said something which is not only important but very useful, that we could have some protocols that would take care of the ethics part. Yes, good. Anyone else who would like to share his views with us? What about the ethical part of resource mobilization? Well, in that case, I'll go back to the presentation. So you see that I agree with you that ethics or morals for that matter is very important. Now we need to remember that when we urge the school heads to engage in resource mobilization, we should not forget that school is not meant to be turned into a commercial organization. Money making is never going to be its sole motive. It is mobilizing resources, but in order to generate some additional funds for imparting better quality education. But that is not going to be the sole motive. That is not going to be an end in itself. Making money is not going to be an end in itself, unlike in other business uh, purposes. We usually engage in business for making money, but at the school level, imparting education is the main motive. And funds are not generated just because we are competing with the other school heads, and we say that, look, I have generated this much fund in this financial year. No, it's not for that. We also should see to it that we are utilizing the fund judiciously. Why? For the welfare of the students. Otherwise, this entire exercise of mobilizing resources will go waste. And the methods that we adopt must be ethical. Until and unless we teach children about ethics in entrepreneurship, they would not grow up into honest businessmen and businesswomen. So, school is the place where they should learn about ethics in any sort of entrepreneurship. And as I said, that they should also understand that school is a non-commercial organization, and under no situation should the school head or the teachers exploit children. I'll share with you one instance. At a nursery school, I'm sure many of you have read the story of Pied Piper of Hamelin. There was a city which was infested with rats, and in order to get rid of rats, the mayor and his councillors had tried many strategies. Everything failed, but then there came a Pied Piper who drew away the rats, and the rats drowned in a river. But after that, he was not paid dues. So, this was a drama which was being enacted at a nursery school. What was found is that a child with not great acting skills was playing the role of Pied Piper, and there were a few other kids who had got the roles of mayor, councillors, and there were many children who were playing the roles of rats. Any guess why? That how what was the basis of the distribution of the roles? Well, children whose parents had paid a lot of money, or not paid, rather, contributed a lot of money, these children were given the roles of Pied Piper, Mayor. So their roles had been purchased. And the children were told that you should ask your parents to contribute towards the annual function. The children had been exploited, and their parents had purchased roles for them. So this is definitely a way of mobilizing resource, but whether it is ethical or unethical, I leave it to you to decide. I'm not going to tell you that. And there should not be competition. For instance, in this case, there was a competition that who can collect donation from parents or from the community. There are children who come to our doors and ask for money. Well, our school has asked to collect money. Therefore, please donate some money for our school. We are going to build a hall with the money that you donate. And after that, there is a competition, and the children who collect the most, they are awarded with better grades sometimes, or with some other rewards. So there is a competition. There is You put children into a race, and after that they think of different strategies of collecting money, and they ask each other, how much have you collected? Well, I'm lagging behind, so I should also catch up with you. There is a competition. As school heads, we should see to it that we should not make children race against each other, compete with each other in this way. And we should also remember that generating funds is the means and never an end in itself. Now I come back to you for your views, that I'm sure that now you understand that what it means when I say that ethics in mobilization of resources. This is something very important. And for instance, you might have seen fruit sellers or vegetable sellers. This happens here in India. Selling sometimes some rotten fruits are there, hidden under fresh fruits and sold away. So at least the school should see to it that children do not engage in such practices when they are selling their horticultural products. So these are some of the lessons that we need to impart to our students while they engage in resource mobilization. And in order to make cultural programs attractive, we should see to it that we go by the culture of our country, the traditions of our country, and we should never indulge in things that are not culturally sound and that are just for collecting money. So now share with me your views. What do you think? What are your experiences? And as I said, that children often come to us and say that, please donate money. We should not turn children into beggars. That's what I personally feel. I really pity those kids who come to us begging for money and they say that our school has asked us to do that. Well, this is no way to mobilize resources. Do you agree? What are your views? I come back to you. Yes, I would like to hear from you. That what are the practices? Yes. Go ahead. Yes. Rimindako, you had unmuted yourself.
Okay. Yeah, I fully agree with you that mobilization of resources should definitely be ethical. I could remember, due to lack of funding, sometimes we want to take our student to excursion, but if there is no fund, some teachers may decide to ask the student to go and provide the fund for the excursion. Sometimes some teachers, they end up making money using the student. Maybe they ask the student to bring more money, more than what they need. That is some of the reason why I could I don't do that. If the school has the money for the excursion, then I take my student. If the school doesn't have, I just don't take my student to excursion. Or doing practical. Sometimes we lack some materials or agents in our labs. You see, I don't want to the situation whereby I ask my student go and get money so that we bought this reagent for the practical. I just left it until the school has the enough money to get the reagent, then we can conduct our practicals. So I really agree that mobilization of students should be entirely ethical so that our students will not teach them something which is not good. Thank you.
Yes. Good. Anyone else? Yes, Firdans. Go ahead.
Um,
Yes.
it is quite interesting a topic. Many times you'll be walking by the roadside and these kids will come with coupons that you should um, pay something and then and indicates. And one thing that you would find out is that after giving money to them, some wouldn't even want you to take, which means that the kids themselves are even raising funds for themselves, even more than the school. And this will come about when the teachers don't apply ethical means to whatever fund that is being raised. My issue even has to do with when students pay for things and that thing or the money is being not used for what it is meant for. Here we are talking
Yes.
about the raising of funds, but then when you go to certain schools and then you realize that the items that are stated on the student bill itself. For example, my brother was talking about student excursion. There are times you look on the student bill and then you find out that the student have paid for excursion, and yet that item money is not being used for what it is meant for. So the ethics is not only supposed to be on the part of the student, but also it's a suggestion though, but also on the part of the management, the head teacher. Because if a student has paid for a session and then you are not using it for, and you are asking students to rather go and also mobilize things, which is usually found in part of our schools, then it becomes a double fundraising thing. So I think that as we are learning to believe yes in our school, we should also apply such ethics in our dealings so that we don't end up like those who we are criticizing. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes, you are right. So that's why I had also mentioned it in the slide that it is not only enough to mobilize resource, but also to use it judiciously and for the welfare and well-being of students. Otherwise, the entire exercise is futile. It's really good to know about your experience, and I look forward to hearing more from the other participants who have not yet shared their experiences. Yes, come forth. Tell me, until and unless you are logged in, but you are doing something else. Well, I don't mind. As adults, you have the discretion. Yes, Suleiman, are you still there? James? No? Okay. Now, I would like to ask you something about your program. Well, this is run by Regional Center Dehradun. And even though we have developed these courses, so they are offering this program. Tell me about the assignments. Are you writing assignments? What is the system? Have you been asked to write assignments?
Not
Yes,
yet.
Remindako?
Not yet.
Not
We
yet.
haven't
I
started
haven't been
writing
able
yet.
to. Okay, someone is talking.
Okay, let Remindako complete.
We
Yes,
haven't started writing the assignment.
but have you been asked to write assignments?
They said we will be asked when the time is due to write the
Okay,
assignment.
okay. That's Fidjans. So I
I
think
think that
you have the same thing to say.
at the end of the modules, at the end of the modules, there's an assignment portion which is open from January to the 31st of March as the deadline. At the end of the when you look at the when you go to the LMS, at the extreme bottom of the module, you find out that there's assignments, and the questions are already there, and it is opened from January to March. Just that it carries or it covers everything that ought to be treated. So maybe we can attempt it when we are done treating the entire topics.
Okay, James.
Okay,
James.
all right. With what my colleague was saying, I've seen that assignment, but it looks like the assignment for those who finished last year or those who treated the course last year. Like he was saying, it contains more than what we have been taught yet. So my other colleague was saying that we haven't gotten any other assignment, yes, because we were told that when they finish or at a point in time they will give us an assignment. But as it stands now, we haven't seen any else. We have not gotten any assignment yet. And what's on the platform, as he was saying, has more than what we have been taught. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else who would like to say something? No? Okay. Then what I gather from your response is that you have all of you have said that you have not yet been taught, and therefore you are not in a position to write assignments. Well,
We have been taught. We have been taught. But
okay.
the assignment on the platform has more than what should be taught. Like for example, you are teaching us finance resource right now, okay, but probably in what's on the platform is beyond financial resource.
Well, so this word teaching, taught, These are some of the things that you people are using. But remember, I would like to therefore, I asked this question in order to know about assignments. But then what I conclude is that you expect teaching, and this expectation has been created on the basis of the academic counseling sessions, the ongoing academic counseling sessions which are delivering lectures. Therefore this generates the expectation of being taught. But remember, you are in a distance education program, and in a distance education program, just forget about the idea of being taught. You have to engage in self learning. Please don't wait for being taught all the concepts and all the units of your course. And I would also like to tell you that it is not module, so there are certain misconceptions. This is the reason why I have encouraged you to speak. Well, you see, postgraduate diploma in school leadership and management, this is the title of the program. The program code is PGDSLM, the abbreviation of the title, right? Now, this program has 5 courses, not modules. Modules, usually we use the term module when one leads to another. Here, there are 5 courses. Fitjans, I'll come back to you within a minute, right? Okay. So there are 5 theory courses, and apart from that, you would also have an extended contact program. What you are supposed to be doing is that you should read the program guide. In case you do not have the program guide with you, if it has not been shared with you, you may visit IGNO's e-Gyan Kosh, and you can download program guide from PGDSLM content, read it. You will get an idea of what you would be studying during this 1 year duration program, PGDSLM. What all things would be taught to you, not by human teachers, but by the study material. What you are primarily expected to do is engage in self study. Well, I today the session would come to an end within the next half an hour. After that, I would be there with you only for 2 more sessions. But as a distance educator, what I would like to tell you is that please start reading the self learning material and list this. I had also said on the day on which you had your orientation, list the hard spots, get in touch with your academic counselors or RC Dehradun and clear the hard spots. I am also there with you. You can send an email to me. There's no other way through which we can connect except on the next 2 Saturdays, and through email I shall surely respond to your mail. And how would you be using the study material? It is going to be an intimidating task. You have a lot to read, lot to understand. How would you do that? So before I give you some tips for reading and understanding the study material and for preparing for your term and examination, since Rimendako had raised his hand, I would like to hear from him. And after that, I'm going to share how to start using the study material. Yes, Rimendako, you had raised your hand.
It is Fijians, not me.
Okay, Okay, Fijans, tell me. You wanted to say something.
What I was trying to say, what I was trying to say was that I should have used blocks rather than the module. For example, if you take the course we are learning now, school governance and financial management.
Yes, pardon, I couldn't understand your question. The block, school governance and financial management, is not a block, it is a course.
The question that was there, this, for example, divided into blocks, like block 1, block 2, block 3.
Yes, true,
And
true.
in the block
Right.
2, we are now treating the mobilization of finance. Okay. But when you come to the question that is on the platform, it's asked, the first question is to discuss any two forms of budgeting, which is yet to be treated. That is why I was saying that the question that is there is ahead of what we are treating now.
Well,
That is why I was saying that.
I got your point. I got your point, and this is what all of you are saying. I understand it, but as a distance learner, do not wait for these sessions. Start reading. That's what I don't ask you to complete the assignments right now. But my advice is that, my suggestion rather, is that start reading the self learning material. Well, in distance education, the human teacher is not there. So, where is the teacher? The teacher is embedded within the self learning material, the study material that has been provided to you. What are you as a distance learner supposed to be doing? Now, first of all, tell me how many of you have the experience of distance learning prior to taking admission in this PGDSLM? Have you ever been a distance learner, or have you studied only in conventional systems with in person teaching? Tell me that first. How many of you have the experience of distance learning? Anyone? Anyone? Well, no. So this is the first time, I can presume that this is the first time that you have become a distance learner. Well, the onus is on the distance learner to start learning and to keep on learning. The teacher in this case is only meant to facilitate learning. If you wait for the last unit to be covered by some academic counselor, I'm sorry, that's not the right approach. Please start reading. And how do you read it? As I said, it could be an intimidating task. You have a lot to read, a lot to understand. There are so many questions to answer for your assignment, and you have to prepare for your term and examination as well. How do you do that? Well, there is a technique known as S for Switzerland, Q for Queen, and 3 R's. R for rights. What are these? Survey. Begin with the survey. Question. I shall elaborate these points. Read, review, reflect. I had not planned to share this technique with you. Therefore, my slides do not mention it. But after I have heard you repeat these words, teaching, taught, I thought that it's my duty to share with you. Just survey the study material. Maybe you have it in the form of a soft copy, or maybe you have downloaded it. Just survey it. For instance, you go to a market and you survey the shops, that what are the things that are being sold. Before you buy something, you just survey. So just survey in order to familiarize yourself with the content which you would be learning. The next is question. For every unit, or for that, let's start with the courses. For every course, there are certain objectives. Read the objectives. You will come to know that what are the things that a particular course is going to teach you. Come to the units. Say the first unit of school governance and financial management. It has 3 blocks. You have rightly said this. The first unit of the first block. So, what is it about? What am I going to learn? What is this unit trying to teach me? These are your questions. Just read the objectives. Any particular unit would definitely begin with objectives. Maybe an introduction and then objectives, or first the objectives, then the introduction. This would answer the question of what you expect to be taught and what you are expected to learn. So you have covered 2 stages: surveying, questioning. Now start reading with a pencil in your hand. This is very important. I always do that, and I always advise my students, please hold a pencil in your hand while you read. And if it is a hard copy, make notes on the left hand margin if there is space. If you don't have space for that, use a notebook. Make notes. So, this is what you do while reading. After that, review whatever you have read, question yourself that what have I read, what have I understood, what have I learned. If you have not understood, go back to the reading, read it again, read the same paragraph again or the same section again, maybe once more. If you have still not understood, just note it down as a hard spot. If you have understood, note down what you have understood. So, this is the review part. After that, reflect. What is reflection? Reflection is thinking about its application. Whatever they are saying is in the context of Indian schools. How does it apply to my situation, to my school, to my community, to my nation? Reflect on it. And to my experiences, maybe your childhood experiences at schools, maybe your children's experience at school or your family members experience at school, just reflect on its application and how it is related to your situation. This is very important. So these are the 5 steps. Use this technique, or maybe I don't claim that this is the only technique of using the self-learning material, but this is a very useful technique which we have been using for decades. Survey, question, read, review, and reflect. And you will find that there is a teacher embedded within the self-learning material who would be questioning, who would be answering, who would be guiding, who would be taking you logically in a sequenced manner from one section to the next. Therefore, do not harbor the expectation of being taught. It is not, unlike in a classroom situation that, well, my teacher has covered 2/3 of the syllabus, now 1/3 is left. No, don't wait for that. Start reading. Now, this was about the reading, which you need to start when? Today. After that, coming to the term end examination. Assignment, you have already said that you would be carrying out assignment. I'm not sure whether there would be provisions for assignment, but term end examination, you can be sure of that. You would be taking the term end examination. How do you prepare for that? Well, coming back to the SQ3R technique, reading and reviewing and reflection. These 3 steps would also help you to prepare for your term end examination. The notes that you make would enrich, would supplement whatever you are reading in your study material. And I have another advice for you, that in all probability you are going to have multiple choice questions. Therefore, please do not skip sections. That, well, I'm going to skip this. Sometimes we do as students of conventional systems, that there is a joke that a doctor was unable to prescribe medicines to a heart patient. He said that when I was a student of medicine, during my time, heart was not important because the question on heart had been asked in the previous year. So this is just to remind our students that don't pick and choose, don't be selective about it, read everything. And make sure that you read between the lines, the sentences. That is because answering MCQs, multiple choice questions, would require in-depth understanding. And if you have a set of MCQs, you would sometimes be confused because it often happens that some of the answers, not just one answer, but quite a few appear to be right. That this appears to be right, that also appears to be correct. You would find the instruction that choose the most appropriate or the suitable option. Therefore, reading with understanding is important. Reading without understanding, reading by rote, might help you to pass exams that require descriptive answers to questions, but it is not possible for MCQs. Therefore, my suggestion is that don't keep it pending, do not procrastinate it. Start reading right from now. So, this is something about reading or self learning, and also about how to prepare for your term and examination. There is no need to be tensed up, no need to panic, provided you start preparing right from now. Please do not wait for lectures. If you can access lectures, that is well and good, that would add to your understanding, but start reading. So, apart from that, now if you have some general questions, you may ask me. Otherwise, we shall discuss something else related to the first block. Yes, if you would like to know something
Yeah, about the assignment.
about the pardon.
Assignment.
Yes,
I want to understand something. Uh, I understand that we don't wait for the counseling session to start writing the assignment. But are we going to wait until the time you ask us to write the assignment? I mean, the center
well, yes.
to say, okay, now write the assignment from so date to so date, or can we just start writing the assignment by now? That is what I wanted to understand.
Well, yes, that is my answer is yes. You need to wait for the communication. There should be an official communication that asks you to write assignments and
Okay.
submit the assignment. Please wait for that. But since I was not very sure of this, therefore I have asked you. But I am very sure that you need to start reading without waiting for academic counseling sessions. And how to read, that I have shared with you. Any other question pertaining to this SQ3R technique? If it is not clear to you, I can repeat. I'm willing to repeat it. Any question or no? Okay. Then in that case, uh, there is one more.
Hello. Has Madam left or is network?
Yeah, I think it is network. She will join again.
All right. I was actually hoping that he was going to ask the regional center about the assignments which are loaded there.
Well, it had got disconnected. Huh. Is the screen visible to you?
No.
No, please.
Okay. Is the screen visible to you now?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
this is about shared governance. But before I I would not like to deliver a lecture on it. So tell me again about the practices. Well, these are, this exercise is again going to help you in taking the term and examination. And tell me about the practices at your institutions. First of all, tell me about your idea of shared governance. What is it? Do you feel it is important? And does your institution practice it? I haven't told you what it is, and I'm not sure whether you have read about shared governance or you have heard a lecture. Just your ideas. Just tell me, what does it mean? How important is it for you? And what does your institution do about it? Yes, tell me. What is shared governance and why is it necessary? This is maybe it would be a question for your assignment as well if you have to write one. What is it? Any idea? Shared governance. What is? Well, we share things with. Yes, James. Yes, James.
All right, madam. So, to my idea, when we say shared governance, it's like we have a goal to achieve, but to achieve there are so many responsibilities. So we share. For example, in our senior high schools, the goal is for us to achieve academic excellence. So the shared governance, we give some of the responsibility to HODs, heads of department, some of the responsibility to form masters, some to the parents, and we all do our best in order to achieve the goal of academic excellence. So that is my understanding of shared governance.
Right. So James says that it is basically delegating responsibilities. That's something that I have noted down. And he has said something very important that we all do our best. So this is a sense of ownership, which is an outcome of shared governance. So if I analyze what James has said, there are two parts to it. First, what it is delegating responsibility, and second, the outcome that we do our best. Now, anyone else? That was really a good response. Anyone else? No? Okay. So now coming to the presentation. Well, shared governance is basically a collective decision making. And as James had said, the delegating responsibility, yes, it is essential, or it is also an outcome of shared governance. But once the decisions have been made, therefore, we take decisions and after that, we delegate responsibilities. Usually, what happens in institutions, in many institutions, and even in educational institutions, is that it is the principal, the school head alone who takes important decisions. And the rest of the staff members, teachers as well, they are expected to follow the decisions that have been taken by the school principal. But the concept of shared governance is something contrary to it. It requires that decision making should be a collective process, a collaborative process, and this is what makes it a democratic process. That everyone would be involved, everyone would have a say in decision making, and it is not going to be take decisions are not to be taken just by the school principal. What are the benefits? The benefits are that, there could be multiple perspectives when you ask the teachers of your schools, for instance, how to maintain discipline in the classroom, how to maintain discipline on the school campus, how to keep away drug peddlers from the school premises, how to make parents, how to convince parents to attend parent teachers meetings. So these are some of the things on which the teachers of your school would be offering their perspectives on the basis of their experience. Therefore, the decisions that you take would have a wider and richer base. Naturally, the decisions would be better and it would be likely that the decisions would lead to greater and better achievement. Once the decisions have been made, as James has said, that we do our best. Why? That is because there is a wider support for it, and there is also a feeling of ownership that after all, I have taken this decision. Therefore, it is my duty to now implement it. So, this is an advantage or benefit of shared governance.
Ahora,
Could you please, someone has to mute? Huh? That's okay. Now, what are the other considerations? As the school head, what should you do? That when you have meetings, please see to it that the discussions are focused enough to have concrete and specific decisions. Supposing you need to take decisions on the water supply for your toilet, the discussions are focused on that. The discussions do not wander around topics which are not exactly related to the issue. This happens in meetings. This is quite natural. We are at a meeting to discuss a certain issue, but then we lose our focus and start discussing something else. This should not happen. So, this is the school head's duty to define the focus of the decision and to keep the discussions focused. And you should allow the revision of the decisions taken. There should not be any hard and fast rule that whatever decision has been taken that should hold good forever. No, it's not like that. The decision should be dynamic, and as per the changing needs of the school, the decision can be changed maybe in a year or two, or maybe even lesser. And what would you do as a principal? You have to listen. You have to be a good listener. Instead of being the one who only talks, we should listen to what those who are attending the meeting they have to say. And we should not be focusing, we should try to find solutions instead of a problem orientedness. As a school head, we should look for solutions, feasible solutions. When I say feasible solutions, solutions that can be implemented. And we should also try to ensure that our teachers work as teams instead of the policy of divide and rule, that if teachers remain divided, it would be easier for the school principal to carry out governance. No, it is better to have cohesive teams. It is better to have teachers who are willing to work as teams and help them to focus on the issue. And as a principal, as a school head, you must monitor while they implement the decisions that you have taken. So this is something about shared governance. I can just summarize by saying that it is important. Why it is important? Because after all, it makes the entire exercise a democratic process. We know that functioning democratically is better than, and no one would like to have a school principal who is an autocrat. The second thing is that the sense of ownership. I really appreciate that what James had said, that we do our best. We do our best because we own it. The decision is mine. Now I have to make the decision good. There is a sense of ownership. Otherwise, your teachers would feel that it has been imposed on them. So only when there is a sense of ownership, you give your best. And third, that this is how you motivate your teachers and you can sustain their motivation. It is very difficult. Sustain, even if you can motivate your teachers, if you can motivate your team, it is difficult to sustain motivation. Now, coming back to the questions, for instance, there could be a question like, how do you implement, first of all, do you think that shared governance is important? If yes, why do you feel so? This is the second part of the question. The third part is, what are the steps that you would take in order to implement the concept of shared governance? So these are three questions. Even if you have MCQs, the MCQs would revolve around these three primary concepts for shared governance. Now, James has already covered this aspect, that why it is important. But what are the strategies that you would adopt in order to implement shared governance? We have about 6 minutes left, 1 minute for saying goodbye, 5 minutes. So, what are your views? how do you implement shared governance? Supposing, just imagine that you are the principal of a school or a head of a school. What would you do? What would you do in order to implement? Yes, Fidjans.
First, I
Fidjans?
would have to, yes, ma'am. I would have to go through the staff's curriculum vitae, that is their CV, to trace to find out any form of leadership positions that they have had in their previous years and their individual leadership qualities. Then, if there are needs for certain position in the school, I would put them in that positions, and then also give them the mandate to occupy that positions in the best way that they can with my supervision. And then I would also educate those who are in that position on um, 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 assignment of positions to sub members. For example, if you are the head of academics, you should be able to get people who would work in the academic office so that you can also designate certain tasks for them to also take charge. And then when we go for meetings, I would have to assist them to bring reports from individual offices. Because you are the headmaster, you cannot do all by yourself. So you would need their reports. And based on their report, you can write a final report on it. In so doing, you realize that each and everyone who is in the school has something to do or has an aspect of a task to govern or has an aspect to govern. For example, in my area of work, I was assigned as the transport officer. I was the same time assigned as the tutor in charge of entertainment, and at the same time, I was in charge of information computer technology. So I was having three offices where it's governing, and that even helps one or the other person to gain certain added skills in leadership. So in as much as you are sharing the position, you are sharing the governance, you are also helping them to occupy certain governing positions in the future. So it builds their leadership skills in as much as it builds their competency skills too. That is what I can say.
Well, I have been taking notes while listening to you, and I find that the bottom line is that the realization that I can't do everything myself. Yes, you are very right. A school head must realize, must understand that it is not possible for him or her to do everything on by himself or herself. And what he has also said is that we need to list activities, prioritize. And another important thing that he says is that we should find out who is cut out for which job and accordingly entrust that person with responsibility. So coming back to what James had said, that delegating responsibility, that is very important. We should realize that we can't do everything on our own, and therefore the governance, even though I am the principal, I am the school head, nevertheless the governance has to be shared. I cannot govern the school single handedly. So this is something very important. And if someone has to say something very briefly, we have just 2 minutes. Otherwise, we could close this session. Anyone else? Fidjans, you have raised your hand. Do you want to say something? Okay, no. So we had some discussions on mobilization of resources and the survey question and 3R technique, so that you might start reading, you might start studying, and start making serious preparation for your term and examination. And we also had some discussions on shared governance. With that, this session comes to an end. We shall meet next Saturday, and similarly, I would like to hold discussions with you instead of delivering lectures. And next week we shall take up some topics, maybe from the second block, and hold discussions. So, with that, goodbye.
Goodbye, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
madam,
much.
for today.
Okay, thank you, man. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye. So, I'm logging out now.
Hello.